So my name is Tieast Leverett. Everyone calls me Ty. I work for Stellantis. And if you're like, what is Stellantis? Y'all know us as Chrysler, right? So we're one of the big three automotive manufacturers outside of Detroit. And we got that new name through a series of mergers that have happened over the past few years. We've had a lot of different names, but if anyone is from the Detroit metro area, you know who we are. What I do at the company is I'm responsible for all of our business resource groups. We have 11 of them. Additionally, I'm responsible for our Motor Citizens program. So that is our North American corporate volunteerism program. This is a relatively new role for me. Prior to that, I managed our university relations and early career. So I had the intern program and people who were newly hired out of college for a little bit. And then prior to that, I was on the sales side. So I've been with Stellantis since 2014. Prior to 2014, I had a plethora of different jobs. I know y'all trying to get out of here today. I don't have time to go through all that because y'all will be trying to kill me. But what I do right now is very near and dear to my heart. I've been a member of BRGs pretty much the whole time. We call them BRGs at Stellantis Business Resource Group. I know a lot of y'all call them ERGs. I know that's Macio's name, ERGs, so we'll go with that for today. But I've been a member of those for the entire time I've been at Stellantis. And I can say decisively that if it were not for my contributions and for my involvement in ERGs, I probably would not have stayed at Stellantis. It's been influential in my career. It's been influential in my sanity and everything else that goes along with being an employee at one of the companies that I'm sure are similar to what you all do day to day. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is something that we did last year. One of our ERGs, our BRG, excuse me, our African American affiliated group, and we call it STAAND. So it's Stellantis African Ancestry Network Diaspora is the acronym. We took a trip to Ghana, and that was the first time an ERG had ever taken a trip of that magnitude, a first time a ERG had really taken a trip at all. And so what I want to talk to you today about is some of the takeaways and some of the thoughts behind if you would like to do something similar at your organizations, what the good, the bad, and the ugly was from my experience, and the hopes they can help you as well. Everything that you are thinking about, all the different personalities, different people at different levels in the organization. Some are very, let's call it, particular about what they want, and others are not. So navigating all of that was definitely lessons learned. The title, of course, is Journey with Intention, and I'll copy. I heard Aronde share this too. Having intention as the overall or arching theme to anything that you do from an ERG perspective is, of course, critical. So let me get right into it. So again, talking about what does it mean to do a trip of this magnitude? What does it mean to go somewhere with a bunch of people and somewhere potentially far away? We wanted to make sure from an African American perspective that we were looking at doing something that was meaningful for us culturally. We wanted to make sure that it was something that would resonate with us, but also be inspirational in a sense. But also, there's some business elements, if you will, that we wanted to add to this too. Again, as you all probably are fully aware, but having purposeful travel helps to deepen your connections within your ERGs. It expands the cultural intelligence and, of course, helps to also foster leadership skills and leadership growth across the BRG or ERG members. As I mentioned at the top of this, I'll give you 7 in this presentation, but I'll make sure that Maceo has my handout that you can print off that has 20. Some of the tips and again, takeaways with regard to designing a trip of this nature, helping to make sure that it's inspirational and engaging, but also has some business alignment inherent within it. And then who is it for? It's for all of you on the call, whether you're an ERG leader, whether you lead the ERG programs at your company, if you're an ally, or anybody who just wants to turn an idea into something that's unforgettable. So a little bit about me. Again, I shared a few things, but as I work for Stellantis, you know what I do, but some of the things that are very meaningful to me are shared on this slide. So the guy playing the guitar, that is my 22-year-old son. He is an intern at Stellantis this summer, so finally he can start paying for lunch and doing some things for me. But he is a student at North Carolina A&T, where he studies electrical and computer engineering. Very super proud of this young man. I will share, and he's okay with me sharing as well, that he is on the autism spectrum. We have gone through a lot together, and the things that he's been able to accomplish are incredible to me, and I continue to marvel at what he does every single day. The girl in the red shirt holding the big trophy in the middle, that is my daughter. She is 19 years old. She is a student at Grambling State University. You see the theme going through here. I got 2 HBCUers, so I get it. I saw that Shannon was posting some HBCU stuff in the chat. But she is holding her trophy from the SWAC, so her freshman year. Her team won the women's soccer conference. I've been a soccer mom since she was like 4 years old, so she's finally paying it off. And she's a student down there, of course, in Graham, studying criminal justice with a biology minor. She wants to solve all the crimes and make sure that people are brought to justice. And then the little guy, that little teeny tiny hand on the bottom of the screen, that's my youngest. He's about to go to 6th grade, but he was born at 26 weeks gestation, so extremely premature. He was 1 pound 2 ounces at birth, and he fought his way out of the NICU. We spent 7 months in the NICU before he was able to come home. But that is he and I at the Detroit Pistons game. Yes, I am a Detroit girl through and through. He's now 11 years old, and he's doing great. So he's also just been a blessing, a miracle to witness. Really quickly again, me and the gorgeous lady sitting next to me, that is me and my grandmother. That was last year when she turned 100 years old. So she is 101 now and continues to be a blessing and an inspiration to me. And then the picture, you see me and two people on either side of me, right above the Stellantis logo. That's a former job that I had. I used to be a flight attendant for United Airlines, and really that's what fostered my love and my passion of travel. Maybe that's the second thing. So the first thing, and that's the picture at the top of the slide, that's me in Ghana during the recent trip that I'm about to share things about with you. But I was a foreign exchange student at the University of Ghana. So that for me was one of the most eye-opening experiences of my life. It really shaped who I am today, in addition to all the other images that you see here on the slide. But that's just a little bit about me, just so you know who the heck is talking to you for these last few minutes of your day. All right, so again, I feel like I am mirroring Oronde's words. So the first tip I would share with regard to ERG travel is start with a clear purpose. I know many of you are responsible for and or involved in many ERGs at your companies. So the key thing that we thought about initially was tying the trip to our ERG's mission. And again, one of the 11 ERGs that we have at Stellantis, the mission statement includes things like cultural appreciation and awareness, how to incorporate our cultural values, if you will, into how we show up in the workplace every single day. We wanted to make sure that we highlighted and amplified that during this trip, and also wanted to incorporate some business outcomes. The second thing we wanted to focus on was making sure that what we were doing was aligned with company values. Again, we went last year, and so there was a lot of discussion and focus on globalism at Stellantis. That is still something that we are all learning from one another about doing more effectively. When you think about a company like Stellantis, you got to think about combining traditional Chrysler, right? So from Detroit, at one point, Chrysler was merged with Fiat, which made FCA, and then Fiat Chrysler, and Fiat's from Italy. Fiat Chrysler merged with Peugeot's in France. So now you have all of these global entities coming together to make Stellantis. So we wanted to make sure that we could communicate, okay, we're going over to another country. That only expands our knowledge and our understanding of one another. And so we wanted to make sure that was clear. And of course, understanding why the experience matters in the moment was something that we had to communicate to leaders. Next tip, going right into that, securing leadership buy-in, and do this early in the process. So the way that we shared about this trip with our leaders, and we shared it as high as the CEO level, because when you think about it, we were taking, I think the total on the trip was about 28, 29, maybe even 30. I got to refresh my numbers, but you're taking 30 employees out of the country, and some were very high level leaders. For those of you who are familiar with the automotive industry, our head of global design, so Ralph Gilles, went on this trip with us. We had two senior vice presidents on the trip with us, a VP on the trip with us. So we had a lot of high level people. So we wanted to make sure that we communicated to leaders that this is what we would like to do. Is it okay for us to do it? So we position it as a developmental opportunity. And again, I think Aronde talked about this, but making sure you're clear with what your ROI is going to be with doing something of this magnitude and how it could impact the company from a long term. One of the elements here that we were excited to be able to do is there is a manufacturing facility in Ghana that assembles some of our vehicles for the European, African, and Asian market. And so we were able to go and tour that facility. So again, that was a piece of the ROI. We're also seeing how business is done from a different perspective. And of course, getting your decision makers on board early in the process so that you don't have those road bumps coming up later when somebody's asking you, oh, okay, y'all doing what? No, we talked to you about this in January and we're going. All right, so next tip here, invite participants intentionally. We did not want this to feel like it was just a leadership trip. We wanted it to feel like anyone in STAAND could go. And so we were very clear about that from right from the beginning. And we did a lot of things to make sure we communicated the travel information very clearly right from the beginning. I think I get to it in another slide, but we had a long-term payment plan to make it accessible to everyone. We wanted to invite everyone all the way from somebody who had just started to someone who had been there for decades. And we had that on the trip. We had newer employees who were able to attend, and we had some very seasoned and very wise veterans in the automotive space who were also on this trip with us. And we were very intentional about making sure that this is open to everyone. Next up here is budget realistically and early. So just alluding to what I shared in the previous slide, we wanted to make sure that we gave people time to pay. It is a big undertaking, and being respectful of everybody's multiple financial responsibilities, we didn't want it to be like, okay, you have 2 months to pay for this. So we partnered with an organization called Certified Africa. I'm happy to share their information or anything about them if anyone's interested. They were critical partners in us being successful here. But they set up our payment plan, our payment options, and things like that to reduce the burden for people who wanted to go. And then we also made sure that we were very clear and transparent about what the cost would be. Of course, there's a cost for the actual trip, talking like airfare, hotel, and all the big things that you think about. But there's also other things, especially going to a country like Ghana. You'll have to get immunizations. There's a visa that you have to pay for, and some of those little floating costs that you may not be thinking about. We did a lot of diligence to make sure that we were communicating that as well, so people can have a true estimate of what they were going to spend. And then, of course, you want to get over there, and the minute you get over there to the market, you see all the jewelry, all the clothes. You're going to want to buy things. So making sure that we were realistic about the budget as well, for sure. I think I am seeing some stuff pop up in the chat. If I miss a question, you're free to come off mute and ask it, or I'll make sure I get back to it after I get done sharing my slides. I just can't see both, so my apologies there. All right, next one. This was one of my favorite pieces, quite honestly. So we did some pre-trip grounding. So we wanted to make sure people understood like where they were going, right? You hear, all right, let's go to Africa. Africa is vast. So let's narrow it down. We're going to West Africa. West Africa is vast. Let's narrow it down a little bit more. We're going to Ghana. So what is Ghana? What's Ghana about? And so we did a lot of things before to give people the cultural background and the proper context about the country from a historical perspective, from a cultural perspective, from a financial perspective. Like we talked about it all. So we had some SMEs come in. A former professor of mine is from Ghana, and he's an expert. He's written several textbooks about Ghana specifically. He's like the guy when it comes to Ghana. So we had him come in and do two just open talking sessions where he gave us history and heritage of Ghana, like then and now. So that was pretty good for people to get an understanding of the country. We had somebody who gave us basic language lessons. So one of the many languages that's spoken there is a language called Tree. We had someone give us like basic lessons on like basic greetings or how to kind of function on a regular day-to-day basis from for a very rudimentary level, but we had some words that people could use when they were there. We had an outing where we went to a West African restaurant in the Detroit metro area. And we had them prepare a Ghanaian meal, typical West African meal, so people can get a feel for the food and the kind of things they would be eating. And then we shared a reading list, materials to download, and just things to get people understanding what they were doing, but more so than understanding, get them excited. Okay, I'm getting ready to get over here and see this. And for people who have an understanding of West Africa in particular, as it relates to African Americans in the United States, the Caribbean, or in South America, they understand the importance that Ghana has to that narrative and to that heritage. For those of you who aren't aware, Ghana is one of maybe two places that have remaining slave dungeons to really see where the journey of those who were enslaved started. It's representative of what that journey looked like from the beginning. So that was a key piece to going to Ghana in the first place. but also a key piece to having these conversations before to prepare people for what they were going to see, because that's one of the most emotional things from an African American perspective that you can do. So we also wanted to make sure that people were aware that we were going to be doing that and to be prepared for that. Next next takeaway I would say, and this is again, all the pictures I've been sharing are actually pictures from the trip, but this is a picture of us at that Peugeot facility that I was telling you about. So again, being able to tie in the business with the trip. So we wanted to make sure that we had some heritage-based activities, but also business-aligned activities. And I got to tell you, this was eye-opening because coming from an automotive company in the United States, in particular, like Detroit metro area, the facilities are vast, they're huge, they got robots, they have all types of things going on in there. And then to go into Ghana and see what our colleagues in Ghana are able to do with far less, and the pride that they have in what they're doing, the respect that they have for their hands-on work every day was eye-opening and very special to me to see, and I know to our colleagues as well. If you're thinking about a trip for your company, if there's some tie-in that you can have to the business, but to really to be able to see how things run from a different perspective, I think that's a major takeaway there. And I'll highlight this last bullet on the slide too. Create a space for personal reflection and professional insight. So at the end of every single day, we had reflection time. We would go like at dinner and say, what were your takeaways for today? What resonated with you the most for today? How did this make you feel? Because one of the things I think we could have done a better job of, and I'll get to that, I think, on the next slide, is we didn't really do a whole lot with it after we got back. And so I would encourage you, if you're thinking about something like this, to begin with the end in mind, right? Think about what you would like to do with this trip. What would you like your ERGs to share after doing something like this? So you can be better with capturing that in those moments. But at least on a daily basis, right, we did do reflection time to understand how people were experiencing the whole journey. Which leads me to this. Think about the return before you leave. Figure out who's going to do what. If there's a post-trip activation that you can do, whether it's a share out with your whole company or a share out to your ERGs, or what your company communication platform is, or some sort of intranet that you all have, like how are you going to cascade the experience in an effective way? And then what can you do beyond that? Is there something else that you can use to launch into a new initiative? Is it something where one BRG pilots it and other BRGs do it later? Whatever it is you want the outcome to be, I would say think about that even before you go. Have that part of your communication plan when you're launching this so it's clear and you can deliver on what you're trying to do. And that's it for me. Here's all my contact information. I don't mind if you text me, call me, email me, whatever. If you want to talk through an idea, happy to do. Again, these are more pictures about our journey. And then let me take a peek into the chat to see if there's anything that I missed. Okay, it still won't let me do both. So I'm going to stop sharing and then I'll go to the chat. Or if you want to come off mute, feel free to ask anything. But let me see here. How did you get corporate approval? So with their personal time and money, was there concern for company liability? Yes and yes. So the last one is a no. Let me get to that first. This was completely self-funded by the individual traveler. So we did not engage the company to pay for this at all. But the other elements that you ask about, we did send this up the chain through the CEO and the COO. They had to give approval for that. Our VP of D&I was on the trip, so she already had her yes inherent in there. But we also went to legal to make sure that there wasn't anything that we were doing or the way that we were advertising it was effective and legally aligned. So we did get approval to go, but we did not get any financial sponsorship. However, we did get permission to travel under the STAAND banner. So we were very clear that we want to make sure that we are highlighting that this is a group of Stellantis employees. This is our BRG. Are we okay to brand this? We had a branded shirt that we went over with. Are we okay to talk about this through our social media channels under a STAAND trip? Legal was fine with us doing that. So Francis's question is, we advertised it through just the BRG, but we had external people coming. So we had family members, we opened it to them. We opened it to leaders throughout the entire organization. We shared it with all the other BRGs that we were going. So we did open it to everyone. We mostly just had people from STAAND, though. We didn't have other BRGs participate this time, but I think that might change in the future. I do have a lot of gray hairs that have sprouted up from that trip, but I would definitely do it again.